All right. Today we're going to be talking about my latest addiction and money pit. We're going to be talking about HyperScape. Now, I know obviously a lot of you guys are used to Apex Legends content on this channel, and I'm by no means like moving away from Apex, but I have diverse interests in video games, and this channel is just kind of like a hobby and a project for me. And so today I'm going to be covering HyperScape. I've been dumping quite a few hours into it and watching a lot of streamers, so I figured at this point I have some authority to talk about the meta, and so we're going to be going over the best guns, the best abilities, and the best areas to drop on the map, as well as just some kind of like late game tips. So you're going to want to stick around all the way to the end so that you don't miss any of that content. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably on console, so I just wanted to let you know that this game's going to be coming out in about 15 days for console, so you can watch this now or you can come back to it in about 2 weeks and it'll still be here for your enjoyment. But with that little intro out of the way, let's get right into this, because this is something that I'm really excited to talk about. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is weapons. Now, I'm going to give like the pro official meta, and then the guns that I personally enjoy the most. And now this is kind of a little bit overlapping in some ways. So first I'm going to talk about my favorite set of weapons, my favorite loadout. And it's pretty easy to get the loadout that you're looking for in this game because the loot pool isn't very diluted, which is one of my favorite things about it. So I'm almost always run a Skybreaker, which if you're not familiar, it's kind of like the BFG weapon in Doom, where it has that like one big plasma ball and does a lot of damage. And then I also run the Protocol 5, which is the sniper rifle. Now, this is kind of in meta. The official like pro strat meta that I've been seeing a lot of people run is the Harpy and the Protocol, or very occasionally, sometimes they'll run a Harpy and a Salvo, which is the grenade launcher. But usually the Protocol is in there because the maximum level Protocol 5 does a one-shot headshot, which is beyond crazy in HyperScape, because I believe it's the only weapon that's even like close to being able to do that. Most of the other weapons cap out at like 70 or so damage, even when they're fully upgraded. So obviously you are going to want to get good with the Protocol 5, unless you prefer a very up-close style of fighting, but there are certainly a lot of situations where that puts you at a disadvantage. Now, the reason that I encourage you guys to all take the Protocol, even if you're in a big group, you're not going to probably be able to find 15 of them to max out everyone's weapons, but even just having it up higher, it still does in the 80s or 90s at level 4, so it's still good to have around. And honestly, once you like get accustomed to your sensitivity, sniping is not super difficult in HyperScape, but it's definitely a skill that you should hone. Now, the reason that I carry the Skybreaker around with me is that it just has a crazy amount of damage for AoE. So it's definitely a lot better in squads than it is in solos. However, I still like it in solos just because of the knockback. So if someone's getting kind of close to you, if they have a shotgun or something like that, you can create some space. And we'll talk about abilities in a minute, because creating space is one of the most important aspects of HyperScape. The reason that pros like the Harpy so much is just because of its rate of fire and its damage per second, its DPS, which is very high. I'll make more videos in the future if you guys really start to catch on with HyperScape and if you enjoy it and ask for it, kind of with recoil control for a lot of the guns, because they are very different than Apex. I've heard a lot of people say that the gunplay in HyperScape is bad, and that's not true. It's objectively false. It's just that the recoil is a lot more unpredictable than in other games for the automatic weapons. Even with the assault rifle, which has a lot less of recoil than the Harpy, is still difficult to land shots with. But the Harpy absolutely melts people if you can land your shots. I'm not super good with it. I prefer the AoE stuff. I've always been more of a team player, like the kind of person who whittles enemies down, as opposed to being the one who finishes them off. Usually I push that onto my teammates and I end up getting more assists than kills most games. However, if you're really that kill-oriented person, the Harpy might be better for you to take over the Skybreaker. But let's get into abilities. Now, there are a couple different sets of abilities depending on your play style, but I'm gonna just talk about one or two of them. I'm gonna talk about the one that I consistently run because it's done pretty well for me. Since it seems like the abilities are more of a personal preference, but we're gonna talk about that there are different kinds of abilities. There are abilities that create space, and that's going to be like shock and smash and ball, and also kind of wall, but that's kind of its own category. But those are abilities that are going to allow you to break away from fights. Now, you might be thinking, what are you talking about smash breaking away from fights? It's literally an ability that you use to go into a fight. That's not how I use it, and not how I've seen a lot of streamers use it. It's actually far more effective either to scale buildings or to get away from a fight, because all of the abilities can be canceled in HyperScape. And that's a really, really important thing. Now, you can either cancel it by scrolling your mouse if you're on PC, or swapping weapons if you're on console, so like Y or triangle, or shooting will cancel it. So what I typically do is jump, do my double jump, and then use my ability, so usually smash, because that's the one that I carry most frequently, and then once you come out of it, you can double jump again. So it's really, really helpful for getting out of situations. Now, teleport obviously is up there as well, and the thing that I like about these abilities is that if you really need to, you can use them to get into fights to help out your teammates, or just to take a third party if somebody's low. So they're really versatile in that aspect. And then the second kind of abilities that you have are going to be your more team-oriented or person-oriented abilities, so like defense, heal. I classify wall in here as well, which are more of a defensive purpose. And I think all those are pretty self-explanatory. Armor, I think I misspoke and called it defense or something before, but armor just grants you like a significant damage reduction while you're using it. Heal heals your teammates. Wall puts up a barricade so that people can't attack you. And then I forgot mine, which basically is just a mine that you put on the ground, and I would classify that as the same kind of defensive ability. So typically I run smash for the reasons that I already talked about, and then depending on what my teammates are running, I'll either run heal or I'll run mine, because those are two of the most important defensive abilities in my opinion. Mine, obviously, so that if you're in a building and you're being chased by people, you can just toss it down and buy yourself a little bit of time. Or heal, that way you can get that whole AoE, heal up all the boys and everything, get everybody looking fine, dandy, and fresh and ready to go back out onto the battlefield. So far, the meta that I typically run, and that I think is one of the better metas, is Skybreaker / Harpy, Protocol 5, and then for your abilities, you're gonna run Smash and heal or mine, depending on if you're playing solo or what your teammates are doing. Just kind of also a little bit of personal preference. You might be more of a person who's more oriented towards being able to hide mines better, or you might be more of a healer character who's less aggressive, and so you can use heal. Now, quickly before I end this video though, I want to talk about my favorite places to land on the map, because that really does kind of set the precedent for how you're going to do that game. Usually, if you immediately hot drop, you're not going to be making it out of there, unless you're like Shroud or something like that, or you just get lucky. However, the one location that is exempt from that rule is T-Loop. That place is so underappreciated. There's really, really good loot there, and it's high density. You land and there's like 6 pieces of loot on the top, 8 or 10 pieces of loot on the floor below you. Usually I'll leave that first main building with my whole kit ready to go for the game, and there are 3 main buildings to it, so usually it's pretty spread out. I'm pretty consistently getting between 2 and 3 other squads there, but it's okay, because usually if you land for that first building directly below you, the other squads are afraid to land there with you, and so they'll go a little bit further in and they'll end up fighting, which gives you time to loot. Now, the other place that I really like to land is Rave. If you spawn up by Limelight, that's a great place to go, because depending on the way things are degenerating, you can either go to Limelight or you can go to Red Tiger and clean up the fights there. And typically the people who are there will be pretty low if you go right when the shooting starts, and because they looted one of those yellow areas, they'll have pretty good loot that you can just pick right up and go on your way. Sometimes you'll even get a level 5 protocol or something like that there. The other areas, I just kind of land wherever. If you start up by Mona, you usually go like Expo or Moleculum, which I think that's the area that we've lovingly re-nicknamed the 5G Tower. Mordor is up there too. You might be able to land in that area depending on who's going. And then if you spawn down by Expo, usually Forums is pretty good. I don't recommend going the pipes. It's kind of wild out there and very open, so if somebody gets a protocol, you might not be able to do anything that game. You might just get a cap popped in your skull. That's gonna be it for this video though, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it and found it informative, and I hope that at some point, if you're on console, you come back to it, because it's still gonna hold unless there's like major balancing changes before it comes out on console. I don't really foresee much being different. The one thing that I do think that's definitely gonna happen is the salvo is gonna get a little bit of a nerf, because it's bonkers like inside in close areas. Most of the fighting in this game doesn't take place in super close-up areas though, so that's the reason why I didn't really think that's part of the meta per se, and why the Skybreaker is just a little more versatile. Thank you so much for watching though, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to slap the like button on your way out. I would really appreciate it, and it would really help me in search results. If you liked what you see, make sure you hit the red subscribe button on your way out to join the club. And that's gonna be it for me for today's video though, guys. So until tomorrow, take it easy.